Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to another session of Uplift. This is a special session as we have another guest all the way from US. This is particularly important for professionals in the finance uh, in the finance side of the business, and those professionals who strive to reach to the leadership position. Um, I would urge all the followers, I would urge all the viewers, especially leave comments in this video if you have any questions, because this is your chance to get direct feedback, to get suggestions, to get counseling, to get coaching on issues that you face while being in the corporate side. A lot of time it happens, people think, यार मेरी promotion क्यों नहीं हो रही? यार, why can't I reach the top? And especially in the finance side, what technical skills do I require? ऐसी क्या soft skills हैं which I'm missing? So this session, especially with Bahroz, will really help all of you, and I urge everyone to listen to the specific questions that we have curated, and I hope it helps everyone. Secondly, this session will help those who are looking for opportunities abroad. It's always good to broaden your horizons, and especially if you plan to move to Canada or US or any other market. What skills are needed? What the leaders abroad see in professionals from Pakistan? Um, what are the technicalities of it? What are the administrative things that we need to take care of? So, an interesting session overall, and I'm glad that we have Perros over here. Just a quick introduction. So, for his day job, Perros is head of finance for the Lego Group's USA business, with prior career at P&G, where his last role was CFO for P&G Pakistan. For his passion, he coaches young minds on personal development, financial, and career success. He has worked and lived in multiple countries across the globe, including Pakistan, Middle East, Canada, and now he is residing in the USA. So, welcome, Barrows. Thank you so much for taking out time.
Thank you, Omar. Thanks for the intro. And I just want to thank you for this initiative that you're running. This is really impressive. And I'm a big fan, by the way. So I've learned a lot myself with the kind of activity you have on LinkedIn. I read it, I share it, I reflect on it, and I build on that as well when I have to impart similar knowledge or similar coaching to people who reach out to me. So thank you for doing that, as I'm a student as well.
Thank you so much. I'm a big fan of your work, especially the channel that you have and how you invite people and how you invite guests and ensure that you can add value to the society. That's something that I cherish. That is a hobby that I have in life, and I find that very interesting that you take out time, especially being in the position that you are, the work that you have to do throughout the day, and still you take out time to help people, not just in your own market, but for especially for Pakistanis and anyone who can find it useful. So thank you so much. Beroz, if I can jump to the questions, obviously जो सबके दिमाग में चल रहा है question from CFO to jobless, and we'll delve into it. But since I've given this intro about you being CFO for P&G, which is a premier organization in Pakistan, and I personally have been in the industry for 9 years, and I can say that's one of the toughest positions to get to. So, how was your journey from an associate to becoming the CFO of a premier organization? A very, very tough position to get to, a very, very tough company to get to. So, how was your journey? If you can just elaborate on it.
Yeah, so Umar, let me quickly give some background to myself as well, and kind of an introduction. So I'm originally from Quetta, and Pakistan is known for Karachi, Islamabad, maybe Lahore. You can add Peshawar as well, but Quetta becomes very remote when it comes to opportunity and scale and all. So just wanted to share that piece, which is me coming from such a relatively smaller city and making it big. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And by making it big, I mean what I wanted to achieve. Everyone has their own goals, and success means different for everyone else. But if I am able to achieve what I really wanted to achieve, I can say everyone can do it with limited opportunities that were available to me. Anyways, so I did my master's from Islamabad in NUST, and I've seen some hard times with regards to the availability of funds, my education. So I really had to go with some scholarships, some loans, and all. But I just want to tell you one thing. This all helped me in my interview with Procter and Gamble. And I would always crib about how I am not privileged enough, while I see many privileged folks. Like if you, especially if you are in LUMS, IBA, let's say, and if you belong to good homes, life is relatively easy for you versus coming from a less privileged home. And I would always crib about it or feel bad about it or always say that I think I have a handicap. But you know what? I realized when I was delivering my interview with Procter& Gamble, that was the day when the interviewer started to ask me about my experiences and my character and who I am, because at the end of the day, people don't just hire for skills. Rather, people hire for attitude and passion. And I have the saying as well that, for instance, if I have to hire, I'd rather hire someone who has the right passion, right attitude, because I can teach them, let's say, finances, debit, credit, NPV, and all. But if someone knows all this, but he or she doesn't have the right passion and character, it is very hard for me to teach them. So the point I want to make is if you have hard time, it is your asset and just use it like anything. So when I was in the interview, I would speak about how I couldn't afford my education and how I managed to still get good education despite not being able to afford it. And for the interviewer, this was like, wow, because I was already ahead of the curve in terms of others that that particular interviewer was interviewing. And I left a very lasting impression on that individual. And hence, I think that was one of the reasons I got hired, apart from other skills that I had. But skills is easy to have. All I'm saying is if you have a hard time, don't feel bad about it. It's your asset, use it. And I used it in Canada as well later, and I'll talk about it. Anyways, so coming to P&G, I got hired, and I think that was one element of me getting hired, which is I made use of my hard time and played it well in the interview and in the hiring process. Now, when I joined P&G, as you rightly said as well, when I looked at the head of finance, the CFO for P&G Pakistan, I was like, if I have this role, that would be it. Like if I get to this position, that is when I'll say I am done with living life. But then, it's a hedonic treadmill, right? You get something and then you're like, okay, what's the next thing? So I think that kind of happened to me eventually, but that was a big deal for me. Since the question that you have here, which is associate to CFO, looking back, the things I've learned and I want to share is number one, for the first 1 to 2 years, forget about being smart. You just need to be a donkey. Like work hard like a donkey. Whatever is if there is someone who's you can reach out to someone if they're doing some work, say how I can contribute. If there is a project that you have nothing to do, just see how you can take part of that project. If you're doing an assignment and you see something else being done on the side and you need some help, you can just take that assignment, just jump on it and do as much work as possible, as hard work as possible, without thinking of whether it's in the right direction or not. For the first 1 to 2 years, all you need is to develop an equity. That whenever there's an issue, there's a concern, and people know there is someone who will put all the hours, all the energy to get things done, to get the work done. So build that equity. For the first 2 years, just focus on building that equity. Now, what this means is it won't be 9 to 5, by the way, for you. It will be 9 to 10. So you really have to, or maybe 8 to 10. You'll have to work 8 to 10 for the first 1 or 2 years. But I think it's okay to do so because people do argue about work-life balance. But in those first 2 years, you really don't need work-life balance because, like, I assume you're not married, or if you're married, you're newly married, or you're starting your life. So there is more responsibility to come in future. This is your time to just invest as much as possible. Don't think about whether this is the right project, this is the right work, is this the right individual, and that I'm taking work from. Another thing that I say is for your manager, see what your manager is not good at. And there are a lot of things. And it will be relatively things which are non-strategic tasks. So let's say making slides, making a deck, writing a document, all of this stuff, your manager might not be good at because he or she is good at doing the big stuff. Whatever they're not good at, just take it from them and say, I will do it. Make the life easy for your manager. Make it as easy as possible. Again, this would be crappy work. You just making decks or you just making presentations. But remember, it is only for the first or the second year. So work as hard as possible for the first 2 years. Now, once the 2 years are gone and you've developed that equity where people go like hardworking equals to Bahroz. Once you get that equity, the second piece that you move into is working smartly. Now, this is where you try to hack the corporate code. I always say this like giving GMAT or SAT is not about how much you know about SAT. It's about how you can crack the code of SATs or GMAT, like which question to spend more time on, which question to spend less time on, how to move fast, where to hold on, and so on and so forth. So as long as you're strategic about giving the test, it is okay if you don't know every answer in the test. But if you're strategic about it, you can still deliver it. Similarly, there is a hack to the corporate world as well. And let me say it out as well. Like, for instance, you will not find every time the most competent person in your mind getting promoted. That is not how it will happen. There will be less competent people who will still get promoted and still go to high levels. And the reason because they understand what is required to get promoted or get up or go up. So if you continue to be in the hard work mindset beyond 2 years, then you will struggle because you'll be putting more hours and you will not make that ladder up. So you have to switch your mindset after 2 years and say, okay, now I will start working smartly. And I'll give you some examples. Number one is building connections. So people say, okay, I am the guy who work hard and I just do 9 to 5 and I get up and I do my job best. That won't cut the bill. You'll have to build connections. You have to find the right people who have some sort of influence, little bit, on your career. Make them your mentor. Seek advice from them. And this is something I say as well, which is especially when you're stuck in your career, you seek advice from someone and make someone a mentor who has slight influence in your career as well. Because when someone gives you an advice and says, Perros, I think you should do this, now they get emotionally invested in you because they've given you an advice. And they want to make sure that that advice works for you. So let's say I go to someone and I say, you know what, I'm not getting promoted for past 2 years. And I don't know what I'm doing. And they go like, okay, you know what, you need to work on that particular project. If you work on that particular project or in that particular team, you have better chance of getting promoted. Now, when I work on that project, he or she sees me taking their advice. And now what they need to do is they need to also work on me or in the system to make sure that that particular advice does wonders for me. So they will go behind my back and make sure to call out that, see, Bahroz is working on that particular project and he's doing such a great job. And he came to me for advice. He really wants to get promoted and all. And hence, they will create that influence in the organization for me to go up. Another example I'll give you is if and when possible, line up your projects closer to your performance review date. And the benefit there is, it may not be possible every time, but there is a recency effect. Whenever you go in a people performance review, all you talk about is what happened in the last 3 months. No one talks about, let's say it's December, no one talks about what happened in Jan. Even if you deliver the best project in Jan, people will forget. People will remember the crappy work you did in November or October. So you have to line up your best work around October, November, December to get benefit of that people review process. Similarly, another example of cracking the code. And again, the cracking the code piece that I'm saying is maybe slightly different for different organizations as well, or different industries. But this is what I've kind of observed in the organizations I've worked. So the second is asking for feedback at the right time. So there are two kinds of feedback you ask for. One is when you really want to learn and want to improve, which is very important. And I think you should always do it and always try to see what are the things you can do better and what are the things you can learn. But then there is a feedback that you need for it to impact your performance review, your salary, your rating, your promotion. How do you generate that positive feedback? So every time you do something good, and with a business partner, with any other stakeholder who's not your direct manager, once you've delivered something good, you just go to them and say, can you give me some feedback? And the day you've then done something good and you ask for that feedback, what is the response that the particular individual will give you? They'll say, wow, great work. You're so good. And you're good. You've done a great job. And I just saw you in this project that you delivered. It was such a great thing. Now, what has happened is, as they've given you this feedback, they've also registered this feedback for themselves in their mind for you. So previously, they have not given you a thought. They didn't think about you because a lot of time people don't think about everyone. It's only when you ask them, can you give me some feedback on Bahroz? And then they go like, okay, give me a day or two and let me think about it. When they say, let me think about it, is because they have not thought about you. But if you ask them for feedback in the good times, whenever you deliver something good, they'll start to register those good stuff about you. So next time, let's say come December and my manager goes to them and says, can you give me some feedback on Bahroz because I'm going in a people performance review with him? And what will they do? They'll open their notes in their mind and they'll take out all the notes that they took during the year every time you were coming to them saying, give me feedback in good times. And since they were all good feedbacks, they will just copy paste whatever they have in their mind and they'll deliver that to your manager. And suddenly, voila, you'll have like all the good feedback that you really wanted in your people performance review. Now, I say that this with the caution is because that doesn't mean you just stick to breaking the code around the feedback. You also need to improve because there could be real opportunities which may become a roadblock later. So if you just put a blind eye to it and you always just keep good feedback around you, you may come into a spot where maybe you're doing good for 1 or 2 years, but then there will be a roadblock. So make sure you're honest with your manager. You seek how you can improve things with your manager. But these are the areas where when you've done something good, just make sure you kind of make use of it, make news around it. So these are the kind of things I recommend to people, which is start with working hard, 2 years, develop that equity that you're the hardworking worker guy. And then comes the smart work, which is develop how you can hack the system or the corporate code. Not hack the system, and don't get it in the wrong way. It's not like cheating. It's just like what is required for you to grow.
Great, especially the point that you mentioned, just make your manager's life easier. That's something I think every 2 months I write on my LinkedIn, because I've been working in HR, people come to me and they ask, yeah, maybe promotion, why isn't it happening? What are the issues? Why am I not getting that rating that I deserve? And I tell them, yeah, if your manager is can't depend on you, if your manager has to work extra hard, even after having you in the team, and then that probably means that you are not that beneficial to the manager. So that your point, that spot on, especially with other points as well. But this is something that covers everything. Just make your leadership's life easier.
If I can add one more thing, Umar, on this, I also have a video on my channel on this, which I think is a skill, which is how to manage your manager, and which is a skill in itself. And it has a lot of elements, but one element which you just mentioned as well, and I talk, which is to make life easier. Another element in that is whenever you go to your manager with a problem, always share the solution as well, which is again making their life easy. And one more thing I also say, which is always praise your manager in front of your manager's manager. Now, I don't mean you just go about lying about it. Like if your manager is really bad and you just don't feel like it from the core of your heart, then don't do it. But if there are like pluses and minuses, but generally speaking, he or she is a good manager, always praise them, always make your manager look good so they can it comes back. They will always know it. They won't know exactly who said what, but they will always know what happened and something went out or some feedback went out. And second is when you make them look good, they will invest in you more. They will invest in you more. They will put more effort in developing you because it's just reciprocation that will eventually happen. So, I strongly believe it's a big skill of being able to know how to manage your manager. And these are the elements to it.
It all depends on the trust that you build with your manager. I think there's a video by Simon Sinek on this as well. जो भी चीज़ें चल रही हों, in the end, what matters is, can the manager trust you? Can you trust your teammates? And do you work as a team? Okay, does the manager have your back, or you have the manager's back? And that's how a team functions properly. So definitely, I'll check that video. What was your journey like? Like, how long was it from an entry level to the CFO at Procter and Gamble?
Yeah, it took me a total of 10 years, slightly a couple of months, weeks less, if you call it, but I would round it to 10 years. And I would say I was somewhat lucky, as in there is always part of luck as well, right? In all of this, like you have to be in the right spot at the right time. So luck was surely the part. But apart from that, all the hard work, the smart work, I ended up being one of the fastest growing individuals in finance in the region.
Oh.
Yeah.
Great. So my next question is, so after all of this and a great career and great progression, how did you turn jobless, and how did you cope with it? What happened?
Yeah, so I was in Middle East. I was in Dubai, and that's where when I decided I need to apply for Canadian immigration. And it was just let's just apply for it on the side kind of a thing. It wasn't burning. I was living a very luxurious life in Dubai. Dubai, many people know it's pretty close to Pakistan, so a lot of people have visited, known, heard. It's full of luxury. I was enjoying all the luxuries that were available. Um, and I applied for the Canadian immigration. And when the time came for me to do the landing and move to Canada, it was around the same time, or slightly before that, I got promoted to become the CFO for P&G Pakistan, and I was coming back to Pakistan. But I was mentally, or my let's call it different. My family was mentally already in Canada, like they already pictured their life in Canada, and I pictured my life going back to Pakistan because, as I said, for me that was the highlight. When they offered me the role, I was like, screw Canada, screw immigration. I'm just going to get that assignment that which I always wanted, and I'll just go get it. But my wife was of different opinion, and also thinking of the long term, I decided that I will move them to Canada, or us to Canada. Now, I did start the assignment. I did it for 1.5 years, slightly less than 1.5 years or so. But how I went about deciding it, because it was a very difficult decision. I got a promotion, I got an assignment which I started, and now my family wants to move to Canada, and it is a good opportunity to look in the long term.
So it was your
And I
decision
usually,
basically to leave. It wasn't like
yes, yeah, no,
suddenly
no,
you
no. So
just asked to leave. It
no,
wasn't like
no,
that.
no, it wasn't. I decided to leave. The piece was, and this is how I decided. And I recommend people when they have to take big decisions, this is how they can go about taking decisions. एक ये तरीका होता है कि मैं लोगों को ये कहता हूँ कि you should know what you want from life, or what you want to how you want to see yourself in next 5 years. But उसका challenge ये है कि everyone wants almost everything. You want a car, you want a beautiful family, you want money, you want a passport, you want the CFO role as well, and everything. You just want everything. So अगर मैं और आप अपनी, if you start making our list, it will be almost similar. More or less 80% of the things would be same. And I was like, okay, this is it. I won't be able to decide because I want the CFO role as well, but I want the Canadian immigration. So how about they give me the Canada CFO role, which is not possible, but that would be ideal. So it was difficult for them to move me to Canada. I did try that piece as well. It's just they have a very small office in Canada. The satellite office, it's kind of a satellite office, like main functions are run from US. So the finance function is relatively smaller. So it wasn't possible. So the other way I usually recommend people to decide is what is that you don't want from life. So I want this from life, and how about you go? What is that you don't want from your life? Now, if you and I start making that list, it will be a very different list. So, for instance, when I started making that list, I was like, okay, I don't want to be in Pakistan. Like, I don't want to retire in Pakistan, and for various reasons. As in, I don't want to dwell into that. People have their own preferences, but that was my thing, which is what I don't want from my life. And I was like, okay, if I stay with P&G, P&G has a region called India, Middle East, Africa, and Pakistan. I'm a region, and Pakistan was India, Middle East, Africa, Pakistan region. In that region, so I knew that I would always be rotating in that region. It would be very rare if I move out of the region. I will be always within the region, and any place in the region, I will not be able to change my nationality. And if I don't change my nationality, after the end of my career, I will eventually have to come to Pakistan in one form or the other. So flipping the decision-making process, it was very clear for me that I have to leave P&G. I was in love with the company, and the company was in love with me as well. It was one of the hardest decisions. Like I was up nights. It's not just about leaving a job, by the way. It's about leaving a high status job that I loved, that I wanted, high paying job as well. And I just said no to everything. And I didn't have any job at hand. And I just immigrated to Canada after a year of that assignment, and just didn't have any job on hand when I reached there.
So you just landed there and you just settled there and then started applying for jobs after
Yeah.
having
So
a senior position, and then starting from the
It-
scratch, or not from the scratch, but from all over again? Was it
no,
like
so
that?
it was from scratch actually. What I did was when I was there, I did some math on how much saving I have, and thankfully so, because I was financially prudent enough that I saved enough to say, okay, if I don't have a job for next 12 months, I should be good. But actually, that's not just the piece which is keeping you sane. The other thing is, which was the most challenging part, and since you're right here, how did you cope with it? The challenging part was, now I'm in Canada, I'm in my home, I'm going to bed, and I turn on my mobile to just scroll through social media. And I go on LinkedIn, and there is Umar who's getting promoted. I go like, Umar is getting promoted. Like he was either junior to me or he was the same level. And guess what? I don't have a job here. I just left the best job, and Umar is celebrating, and XYZ is celebrating, and so on and so forth. And it would just start to kill me. Like I would be up all night. It, I did went through that misery for like 3 4 days, and then what I did was I switched off all my social media. LinkedIn, I switched off like I was using LinkedIn because I had to use LinkedIn to get jobs, but I switched off all notifications. So I didn't know what others are doing, what is happening in the world. I was active in Instagram as well, but I had like 500, I was following 500 people, friends and all. I removed, I brought them down to like 50, and big athletes, I was just following them. None of my friends. Facebook, I just shut down Facebook altogether. Nothing. I just closed it. I was like, this will just kill me. And second was, what I did was I told myself, what is important for me? Like at the end of the day, who am I? And this is what we were talking before we started recording, is my identity was Procter& Gamble. Like you and I meet for the first time, you go like, so who are you? And I go like, I'm a manager in, or I'm a financial manager in, or CFO for P&G Pakistan, or whatever. So I would always associate my identity with my day job or with Procter& Gamble. And after 11 years, I just lost that identity altogether. So I was like, this can't happen to me again, because life will happen. Something will happen. Either I will decide to leave or the company will part ways with me. In this instant, I decided to leave, but in future, company can part ways with me. And I need to have an identity of my own, or I have to diversify my identity. And that's when I looked around and I looked at my kids, and I was like, okay, I am a father. Where is that identity? I never, like you and I will meet, and I'll never go like, I'll never start with that. I am a father of two kids. Never. Even with this podcast before we started, how you introduced yourself and how I introduced myself was all about our profession. And I don't know why we do this, but just because we've not developed any other identity. And I said, I just need to diversify into other things. And that is when I think my YouTube channel also came from that inspiration or that thought. My focus on spending more time with kids. Like when I was with Procter& Gamble, I didn't know anything. My wife wasn't working in Middle East, and there was a choice we made, which is like, I will be the guy who will earn, I will be the guy who will work on the weekend, and she'll take care of the kids. So I never kind of enjoyed my kids. I never enjoyed my family. I was all about work, work, work. And I was like, this just needs to change. I need to have a different identity, because this is not what matters most to me. Uh, so I had that reflection time, and it changed me as a person altogether. So now when I meet, I try to tell people. Still, my day job holds the most of my identity because it pays the bill. But I say I'm a coach. The way you introduce, like I'm a coach. I have a passion for. I'm a YouTuber. I have a LinkedIn following as well, and I teach and all. So I've tried to diversify my identity as much as possible. That is how I was able to cope. Now, given you said the restart piece, I did restart from scratch. And that is another thing which I say to people or recommend people, if they are coming abroad, if they want to immigrate, they have to come with the mindset, which is, I am ready to sell pizzas, even if that means selling pizzas. And I've seen the people who succeed and get the job fastest way to find a job in Canada that I've seen is through this mentality of, I'm ready to do anything. And during that reflection time, I developed this attitude as well, that I'm ready to do anything, because it doesn't matter what I do. What matters is, can I sustain a healthy quality life or not? And in Canada, you can, because there is social security. Your kids go to school for, like if I don't have job, my kids will still keep going to school. I'll still have medical. I'll have the basics. So I was like, okay, the basics are taken care of. What else do I want from life? I want happiness. I want to read more. I want to learn more. And I started engaging into all different sort of activities like YouTubing. I started playing guitar. I picked up piano as well. I started road biking. I started CrossFit. A lot of things. Like I changed my identities. I can count like 10 identities on my finger just because of having that reflection time.
Great, yeah, and great to know about this part of your life, because exactly this is what I feel. Not that I don't like my job. I love my job because I feel it adds a lot of value to the employees, and especially the company that I work for, how it gives employment. Now it adds value to the economy overall. But when I come home, जब से मैं LinkedIn, especially since 2014/15, I've been doing this. It's just that feeling that what else am I doing in life? How am I adding value to my own life or to the people around me? So, like you mentioned, your own quality life is around your kids, around your family, and then again, how you coach and how you help people, and that's what. Well, when sometimes people, this is a great piece on when sometimes people say, "Yeah, I feel empty." What exactly? And that's when people should sit down and just think, what exactly do they want from life? There's some people who are very satisfied with a job, and then just chilling after job, and then that's it, and that's fine if they're like that. But a lot of people, they're very passionate and they want something else from life. Uh, uh, so, for example, I was in dramatics for around 4 years in my university days, and after I got into the corporate side, I just left it. So imagine a person who's always on stage, entertaining, being in the limelight, and then suddenly, I think that had a part to play. Why LinkedIn was so important for me, because I started to get a following, and that's something that when you mentioned this, I can feel it, and that's also what I would like to recommend everyone. Just sit down and give yourself 5 minutes and just know that what I tell people is, if you leave the world today, how should you be remembered? What exactly do you want people to say? Do you want people to say that, okay, yeah, this person used to work here, but that was great, which is fine if they like that, or do you want to say, yeah, acha, I want to be remembered as this person who added value. I want to be remembered, this person was great at XYZ things. So yeah, great advice, and great. Thank you for sharing this side of it. And how long did it take you to get your first job in Canada?
So मुझे तकरीबन 3 महीने में I got my first job. I usually say keep 6 months. 3 months is pretty good. 6 months is good, but 6 महीने में मैंने बहुत rare I've seen people taking more than 6 months. Now there's a caveat, which is I was ready to take any job, as I said. So the job I took was, as we talked about, starting from scratch. So I took an accounting job, which was like entry level job in Reckitt Benckiser Canada. And a good thing was Reckitt Benckiser is a good name. But the job came, और मैंने कोई नखरा नहीं किया. मैंने कहा, I'll just take it, because for me, job is a means to sustain my passions, my hobbies now, and not something that I will drive meaning from anymore. I'll have to keep meaning to something which I can control. I cannot let it be a third party driven. कि कल को कोई चीज change हो जाए, either I change or the company changes, and suddenly I lose meaning. And hence, it was relatively easy for me to get the job, and I can talk about how I went about getting the job as well. Um, but the point is, you just need to come to Canada and say, I'm okay to take 2-3 levels down if it comes to that. Because once you start and you develop some Canadian experience on your resume. So the challenge is, कनाडा में अगर आपके पास कैनेडियन एक्सपीरियंस रेज्यूमे पे ना हो, या आपके पास कैनेडियन एजुकेशन, नॉर्थ अमेरिकन एजुकेशन ना हो, people don't entertain your resume. So you really have to take a role cut. So much so कि मुझे अपने resume को, I didn't write CFO on my resume. I had to change it. Senior manager, senior director or director or something like that, just because I wanted to scale it down. वरना लोग परेशान हो जाते हैं कि यार इतने बड़े या स्केल के बंदे को हायर करेंगे तो he won't be motivated. So play on that piece, which is you should be ready to take any job, and because you don't have Canadian experience. Now, once you have Canadian experience, तो मुझे ये हुआ था, मैंने 6 महीने में रैकेट बैंकिंग से छोड़ दी, because Lego, there came an opportunity from Lego, And in 6 months, I took a jump. I moved to Lego. Then I took another jump in Lego. Then came another jump with which I moved to US. So eventually, I ended up being where I kind of left when I was in Pakistan. Call it a 2-year roller coaster plus minus, but it doesn't matter in the long term. अच्छा एक और चीज भी है कि मैं जब पीएनजी में था, आई वुड काउंट डेज। यार वो बंदा 2 दिन पहले मुझसे प्रमोट हो गया या वो 2 हफ्ते पहले हो गया। इट जस्ट डजंट मैटर बिकॉज एंड मैं उन लोगों को ये कहता हूँ कि ओवरनाइट सक्सेस इज 10 years इन द मेकिंग। सो हर चीज का होराइजन एक 5-10 साल का रखें। इट इज ओके, कभी आप आगे होंगे, कभी आप पीछे होंगे, but as long as you are running the race and comparing with yourself, you will reach there, you will be good। मसला सिर्फ ये होता है कि हम फिर लेफ्ट राइट कंपैरिजन शुरू कर देते हैं एंड वी स्टार्ट लिविंग देयर लाइफ। तो मतलब मैं जो उमर से कंपेयर कर रहा हूँ अपने आप को, मैं कह रहा हूँ यार उमर तो ये कर रहा है, वो तो फूड पैंडा में एचआर का हेड बन गया, तो मुझे तो एंड देन आई स्टार्ट टू लूज व्हाट माय ड्रीम इज, या शायद मैंने अपनी ड्रीम कभी डिफाइन ही नहीं की। एंड देन आई एम जस्ट फॉलोइंग व्हाट यू आर ट्राइंग टू डू एंड देन आई लूज ट्रैक ऑफ व्हाट आई वांट टू डू एंड इवेंचुअली आई एम नोवेयर बिकॉज मैं आधा पाकिस्तान में बैठा हूँ क्योंकि पाकिस्तान में लोग सीएफओ बन रहे हैं जो कि मैं रोल छोड़ कर आया हूँ। आधा मैं कनाडा में बैठा हूँ क्योंकि मुझे पासपोर्ट भी चाहिए। एंड देन आई एम जस्ट नोवेयर बिकॉज आई एम इन ऑल ओवर द प्लेस। सो वो चीज भी मैंने अपने अंदर डेवलप की, विच इज आई जस्ट नीड टू कंपेयर विद माई सेल्फ। मैं कल क्या था और मैं परसों क्या बनना चाहता हूँ या कल क्या बनना चाहता हूँ, एंड सो ऑन सो फोर्थ।
Great advice here. Always compete with yourself. Stop comparing yourselves to others. Everyone has a different journey. Everyone has different luck on their side. Everyone has different competencies and what works for them. You should be happy. Yeah, acha hai. If someone works out up, you just focus on your own self. Great. ठीक. So, in your journey, आप यहाँ से, I think around 10, 11 years you took in Pakistan to become CFO, and then this involved the Middle Eastern experience as well, and then Canada, and then US. Let me just flip to the finance side of this discussion. So, what are the top 3 traits that you believe are important for any finance/accounting trainee or young professional who aspires to become the CFO or even a senior manager or a leadership or an extended leadership in a company? These 3 traits can be anything, technical or soft skill, but if you had to cut down to 3 traits that you feel, yeah, if I'm a finance professional and it's just 0 or 2 years of experience, what would you recommend me?
So, Umar, thanks for this question as well. Yeah, this is the question actually I also cover on my channel as well in very broad way on YouTube. But just to answer the question, rather मैं करूंगा कि मैं सिर्फ 2 traits बताऊंगा, I think because they are the most important ones. There are many others as well, but 2 in my opinion are very important. One is the ability for a finance individual to connect the dots. अच्छा, इससे मुराद क्या है? I think finance individual is the only person in the company who sees everything from top to bottom. Top to bottom se murad is the top line to the bottom line. Like sales would be top line, marketing would be the marketing line of the P&L. And then there are the operations guy who are the operations cost of the P&L. And then there are tax guys who are the tax cost of the P&L and so on and so forth. But the finance या FP&A का जो individual होता है वो पूरा P&L जो है वो देख रहा होता है. So the ability to connect the dots के यार अगर sales miss होंगी तो marketing पे क्या impact होगा, operations पे क्या होगा, ये एक ऐसी जो ability है वो किसी और के पास exist कर नहीं रही होती है. So if you can quickly connect the dots कि यार अगर sales miss होंगी, हो सकता है inventory trade के पास बढ़ जाए, trade के पास inventory बढ़ जाएगी तो मेरे पास उनको sell off करने का risk बढ़ जाएगा, या I have to sell them off or discount them. Discount करने का मतलब ये कि I have to create a reserve. तो मुझे शायद मार्केटिंग से पैसा मांगना पड़े या ऑप्टिमाइज करना पड़े पैसा, तो मैं कहाँ से ऑप्टिमाइज करूंगा? सो आई हैव टू गो टू मार्केटिंग. एबिलिटी टू कनेक्ट दोस डॉट्स कि जहां कोई एक डिसीजन हो रहा है आप उससे 4 implications निकाल लें कि यार आपने तो डिसाइड कर लिया है, एज फॉर इंस्टेंस उमर ने तो एचआर का ये डिसीजन ले लिया है, बट इसके ये 4 और implications होंगे which if you bring on the table, no one else has any knowledge of that, and you can really succeed by doing that, which is ability to connect dots. दूसरा सक्सेसफुल ट्रेड जो है वो है, ये मुझे किसी ने सीनियर फाइनेंस इंडिविजुअल दे टॉट मी दैट एंड आई रियली लाइक्ड इट, व्हिच इज द एबिलिटी टू ट्रांसलेट अ कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम इनटू वेरी इजी सिंपल वर्ड्स. एंड उन्होंने इस तरह कहा था, उसने कहा था ये ग्रैंडमा रूल होता है. ग्रैंडमा रूल क्या है कि अगर आप कोई भी कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम अपनी दादी को समझा सकें कि यार ये है जो हुआ है, प्लांट पे जो है वो प्लांट बंद हो गया है, उसमें कंटेमिनेशन हो गई थी, कंटेमिनेशन की वजह से जो है वो प्रोडक्शन हॉल्ट हो गई है, हॉल्ट होने की वजह से इतना इम्पैक्ट आ गया। ये आप सब अपनी दादी को किस तरह समझाएँगे? अगर आप वो समझा सकते हैं, दैट इज़ व्हाट सेकंड ट्रेट इज़। बिकॉज़ द पीसेस जो हायर मैनेजमेंट होती है ना, वो रिलेटिवली डम्ब होती है। बिकॉज़ दे आर नॉट इंटू द वीड्स। बाय डम्ब आई मीन लाइक दे आर नॉट डम्ब, बट दे आर नॉट इंटू द वीड्स। तो उनको ये चीज़ें समझ नहीं आती। अगर आप तो थोड़ा-सा भी कॉम्प्लेक्स करके बताएँगे ना कि जो एनपीवी इतनी से कम हो गई है और प्रॉफिट का लॉस इतना हो गया और कंटामिनेशन हो गई है, इस तरह, दे वोंट गेट इट। यू हैव टू मेक इट वेरी सिंपल एंड ईज़ी फॉर देम। अच्छा, इसका एक और फ्लिप साइड है, मैं थोड़ी-सी डिस्कशन किसी और साइड पे ले जा रहा हूँ, बट when a senior management would visit Pakistan, let's say some white individual or European individual, and they'll come, senior VP would come and visit Pakistan and want to have a business review. And I would always go like, यार इसको क्या पता पाकिस्तान के बारे में? इसको क्या पता? मतलब ये what does he know? How will he add value? But उसकी value addition was always to ask or make things simple, very simple. मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ। हम एक बारी प्रेजेंट कर रहे थे एक सीनियर वाइस प्रेसिडेंट को अबाउट सम टेक्नोलॉजी दैट वी वुड गिव टू द सेल्स रैप। और सेल्स रैप वो टेक्नोलॉजी से क्या है, उस टेक्नोलॉजी में इनपुट करके डाल देगा कि यार क्या क्या स्टोर में कौन कौन से एसक्यूज हमारे एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, उसकी शेल्विंग कैसी, सो ऑल द इन्फॉर्मेशन। सो आई कैन गो ऑन माई लैपटॉप एंड एट एनी गिवन टाइम आई नो कि कराची में परफॉर्मेंस ये चल रही है इन ट्रेड और इस स्टोर में मसला चल रहा है बिकॉज दे पंच्ड इन एवरीथिंग। एंड इट वाज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट प्रोजेक्ट्स एंड वी वर फीलिंग सो प्राउड एंड वी प्रेजेंटेड टू हिम। और जब प्रेजेंट करे थे मैंने कहा यार क्या सवाल करेगा इसमें, मतलब इसमें he doesn't know anything about the technology. He's not a guy from IT. He doesn't know anything about Pakistani trade. He doesn't know anything about what we are telling him. All मतलब it's just all info for him. उसने जो सवाल किया उसने कहा कि ये पंच इन करने में कितना टाइम लगेगा? बिकॉज़ मैं ये चाह रहा था पता चले कि वैल्यू क्या ऐड करेगा। मतलब he has to justify his flight cost, his hotel and everything. So he has to look smart. How will he look smart in the meeting? तो लोगों ने कहा कि यार 5 मिनट लगेंगे। उसने बोला ये नहीं हो सकता। हमने बोला क्यों? उसने बोला नो वन विल स्टैंड देयर, नो सेल्स रेप विल स्टैंड देयर एंड वेस्ट 5 मिनट ऑफ देयर टाइम पंचिंग स्टफ ऑन देयर और ये हमने सोचा ही नहीं। हमने कहा हम उनको बेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी दे देंगे, उनको वो बैठ के बिकॉज़ इमेजिन इफ यू आर अ सेल्स रेप, आप बोलते हैं यार मैंने ऑर्डर लेना है, दैट इज़ माय स्ट्रेंथ, आई विल टेक माय ऑर्डर एंड आई विल जस्ट रन फ्रॉम द शॉप। यू नो व्हाट? बिकॉज़ आई हैव टू फिल दिस फॉर्म, आई विल जस्ट क्लिक, 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 क्लिक everything, okay, and I'll just run. So he said people will click it, people will complete it, but it will be bad data because that is not their job. They're not interested to do it, and this is costing them 5 minutes of their time. So rather they chase order or they chase filling this form. And I was like, wow. Now अब ये बहुत simple लगता है. It sounds like हाँ हमने क्यों नहीं सोचा? But the point is, you just make things so simple, so simple. उसी में strength है because हमारा corporate world में काम यही है कि हम हर चीज को मुश्किल बनाते हैं। तो अगर आप इंडिविजुअल एज स्टेप इन करेंगे एज अ फाइनेंस इंडिविजुअल लेट्स से और आप बोलेंगे यार इस सब कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी को मैं सिंपल कर दूं, दैट इज द स्ट्रेंथ दैट यू कैन ऐड बिकॉज बाय डिफॉल्ट हम जब कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड में जाते हैं हम कहते हैं चीज मुश्किल कैसे करनी है, सो यू जस्ट टेक द अदर राउट। और इसमें मे बी आई गिव द थर्ड ट्रेट एज वेल। द थर्ड ट्रेट वुड बी प्लेइंग डेविल्स एडवोकेट। देयर वर अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम व्हेन आई वुड सिट इन अ मीटिंग, लेट्स से कोई मार्केटिंग की मीटिंग हो रही है, आई वुड गो लाइक यार इसमें मैं क्या वैल्यू ऐड करूं? अच्छा मैं यहाँ बैठा हूँ, मुझे बुलाया तो है, and I need to look smart because I have to say something. And I have no clue what they're talking about because they're talking about some marketing initiative जिसका मुझे ज़्यादा समझ नहीं है, पता नहीं है. So how do I add value? And what I started doing was I would start playing devil's advocate. So सबने कहा कि हाँ यार इतना पैसे लगाएंगे, इतना ये आएगा, और मैं ये कहता था अच्छा अगर ऐसा नहीं हुआ और अगर ऐसा हो गया तो क्या है? Suddenly people go like यार ये तो हमने सोचा नहीं, ये आइडिया कहाँ से आया? आइडिया कुछ नहीं है, it's just that I flip the thing and I look smart because I play that devil's advocate of saying कि यार इस तरह से किसी ने सोचा, because वो अमूमन ग्रुप थिंकिंग हो जाती है, स्पेशली जब एक ही फंक्शन के लोग बैठे हों, they'll just think in the same way. So I tell people as well, if you're in a meeting where you think why are you invited and you have no clue what's going on and you don't understand anything, just flip whatever they're saying and say it this way, guys, I'm new to this meeting, I'm not the expert here, I'm not the marketing guy, ताकि आप थोड़े से humble हो जाएं, guards down हो जाएं, and I just want to play devil's advocate. How about after doing this investment we don't get the returns, what happens? और अमूमन आधे टाइम लोगों ने सोचा नहीं होता है, so when you'll do that they'll go like, oh, ये तो हमने सोचा नहीं, that's a nice input. So that's a third thing that you can also do to bring value from your side.
Okay, so one, trying to get the grasp of everything and getting a holistic picture. Second, making it very simple for um, for the company and finding solution instead of just making it more complicated. And third, playing the devil's advocate. These are three traits
Yes.
that you feel a finance or even an accounting professional that can really help them in moving up. Great. I think all the finance and accounting professionals who see this should be a mantra. And because my HR mein hu, I have to deal with all the departments, and I can tell safely that if not all, at least one or two of these traits is something that I felt after discussions. एक चीज बेरोज मैं आपसे जरूर पूछूंगा. This is not a generalization. This is just based on my experience. Sorry if it offends anyone in this call. What I felt is for engineers and finance professionals, because they're so focused on technical side of the business. उनकी जो training है, उनकी the education that they get is so focused on being technically competent. Sometimes I feel that the softer side is missing. So if I talk about
100%.
managerial skills, if I talk about teamwork and collaboration, adaptability, um, um, ये मुझे लगता है कि थोड़ा सा sometimes miss communication skills, presentation skills. So in my experience, and again I'm not generalizing, but I have to be honest as well. In my experience, this is something that I felt. Why do you think that is there? Is it a missing element in terms of how they are trained, or is it neglected overall among all professionals? Because you worked in Pakistan. So what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, beautiful point, and I completely agree. I think उसके दो वजह हैं जो मैंने note की. One is exposure, and second is opportunity. Finance is always a support function, like would HR be as well. So the lead function is marketing. So whenever there is a business, probably marketing or sales, whoever. There could be companies where finance is a lead function, but let's say in CPG, typical P&G type company, finance won't be the lead function. So lead function hoga sales or marketing, and they would be the ones who would be presenting their business proposals while you're supporting. So you don't get that opportunity to present like them. So मुझे याद है जब अगर हमारा कोई 20 डेक का presentation होगी, उसमें एक slide होगी that I have to present, while there would be balance 19, 18 slides that the marketing or sales guys would be presenting. So they get more opportunity, more chances. The more chances you get, the more in practice you are in presenting and communicating, the better you get. So that is one thing, which is opportunity. Second is exposure, which I somehow had, and it depends on company to company. Exposure is, I remember when I joined the company, my manager would just take me in a big meeting and would just ask me, sit in the corner, sit silent, and just observe. Observe how people listen, how people communicate, what kind of questions they ask, and just learn from that. Finance में अमूमन ये exposure बहुत late मिलना शुरू होता है लोगों को in the function, because they're, again, as a function, they're within their function. There would be one or two individuals who are relatively senior who would go in those big meetings and have that exposure. So either you have that kind of a training, which thanks to my manager, I had that opportunity where I would just sit in the corner, or you by luck, you happen to be in a place where you can have that opportunity. वरना अगर आप किसी ऐसे फंक्शन में, लेट्स से ट्रेजरी में या कॉर्पोरेट अकाउंटिंग में, और आपको बिजनेस मीटिंग्स में बैठने का चांस कम से कम है, then you'll have less of that exposure. While for a marketing individual, call it a brand campaign, call it a budget campaign, budget question, whatever it is, somehow they will find themselves in a meeting where there will be a GM, there will be key decision makers, and decision is being made. While, as I said, if you are a corporate accounting, if you're in corporate accounting, you're in treasury, you are a plant finance cost manager, whatever, there will be less opportunities for you. So exposure जो है relatively less होता है.
So for those individuals, regardless वो finance के हैं या जिस भी function के हैं, if they feel that this communication side or the softer side is, so what I tell everyone, and I don't know if people don't pay heed to this that much, try to focus on it. If you're not lucky enough to have that manager or that mentor or that exposure in your company, at least try to do an online course, or just take any courses, or just find a mentor, or network on LinkedIn and just find those people. So for example, if Perros is here, if he allows, if he has time, just drop him a message. And no, honestly, like this is how I have learned from my managers. Like, like you mentioned, just observe, just sit, just see how they're talking. see how they communicate. एंड ये चीज़ें प्रॉब्ली आपको शायद बुक में बैठ के कोई क्लासरूम में शायद ना बताए. You have to take that initiative. Feroz, you think I'm right? Because
नहीं, I completely agree. बल्कि क्लासरूम में या यूनिवर्सिटी में या कॉलेज में आपको बहुत सी चीज़ें जो आपने सीखी होती हैं वो अनलर्न करनी पड़ती हैं. फॉर इंस्टेंस मुझे याद है जब व्हेन आई वाज़ इन माय कॉलेज हमको बताया जाता था कि 10 पेजेस से कम रिपोर्ट नहीं होनी चाहिए. और व्हेन आई केम टू पीएनजी मुझे बताया गया कि 1 पेज से ज़्यादा नहीं
एक
होनी
पेज.
चाहिए. बिकॉज़ जो चीज़ आप 1 पेज में नहीं डाल सकते हैं, इट मीन्स यू आर नॉट इवन क्लियर अबाउट इट. सो नो वन हैज़ टाइम टू रीड इट. पहले फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल नो वन विल रीड द फुल पेज. पीपल विल रीड द फर्स्ट हाफ, डिस्क्रिप्शन, द समरी एंड ऑल एंड दे विल डिसाइड. And if you are not able to put it in one page, it means you are not clear about it. So there are a lot of things you have to unlearn. So just talking about that piece where जो हम classroom में सीखते हैं वो आपको काफी unlearn करनी पड़ती है. दूसरा, you're completely right. You have to be um, in that party where you see people presenting. You see, मुझे याद है मेरा manager would tell me, learn from the marketing folks how they write their emails, because their emails are to market themselves, market their initiatives. और हम लोग बहुत ब्लैंड ईमेल लिखते थे. सो आई वुड मेक श्योर कि मैं उनको क्रिटिकली उनकी ईमेल पढूं और बोलूं यार इसमें क्या ऐसा अच्छा लिखा है जो कि मैं सीख सकता हूं. सो लर्न फ्रॉम अदर्स डिलीवरिंग इट. एंड थर्ड इज जस्ट ट्राई टू फाइंड दोज अपॉर्चुनिटीज जहां वेर यू कैन काइंड ऑफ बट इन एंड से कि यार मैं भी इधर बैठ जाऊं या ये थोड़ा सा मैं भी प्रेजेंट कर लूं या मैं भी करूं, इवन इफ इट्स नॉट फाइनेंस वर्क. रादर आई there are a lot of times I've been into projects where it wasn't purely finance, but it's just that I was interested. And I would go like, I have a lot of passion for this area. I have a lot of interest, and hence I'm contributing and want to learn. So, of course, again, you become humble as well, and not show okay you're here just because you're the expert. You're not the expert, but you're here to learn. And then once you give that feeling to people that you're here to learn and give your best, people just give you all the opportunity and they help you out.
Indeed. Great advice again. So moving away from the finance side, I think those were gems that you shared, and I hope people pay heed to it and learn from it. And obviously, whoever is watching this, you can write in the comment section of when you see this video, and I'm sure Perros and myself, whenever we get time, we'll definitely respond to it. Guys, welcome to the second part.